and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
A very good evening. You're watching India Global with me, Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's start the show with headlines. First up, India hits back at Canada over foreign interference charge levied by Ottawa. External Affairs Ministry rubbishes Canada's foreign interference report. The probe reveals that the Trudeau government left Canada vulnerable. Tragedy strikes Maha Kumbh in Prayagraj. There's a massive stampede and deaths are feared even as many have been injured. Prime Minister Modi condoles the loss of life at Maha Kumbh on the auspicious day of Mauni Amavasya. Fresh turmoil in Bangladesh as Sheikh Hasina's Awami League calls for anti-Yunus strikes. Awami League demands cases against the former Prime Minister be dropped and says it will start its campaign from the 1st of February. Donald Trump comes good on his immigration crackdown promises. Raids have taken place across major U.S. cities, and ICE agents have made sweeping arrests across New York City, Chicago, and several others considered to be sanctuary cities across the U.S. And Donald Trump tasks Musk's SpaceX to bring back astronaut Sunita Williams, who's been in space since last year. All right, on to our first story this evening on India Global. Canada's year-long foreign interference probe came to an end with the report alleging that India and China meddled in the country's past two elections. That's the allegation that's been leveled by Ottawa. India has rejected all these insinuations that have been leveled by a Canadian Commission report of interference in Toronto's elections by certain foreign governments. The External Affairs Ministry also hit back at Canada's interference in India's internal matters. And India stated that it is in fact Ottawa that has been consistently interfering in India's internal matters. This has also created an environment of major distrust, with illegal migration and organized criminal activities being facilitated by Canada. The report also found that Prime Minister Trudeau's government was insufficiently transparent about foreign interference in Canadian politics and sometimes took too long to act against attempts to meddle in the country's last two general elections. All right, let's get in my colleague Mohammad Ghazali for the very latest on this. Ghazali, this is yet another instance of the India-Canada relationship getting impacted due to false and untrue claims being made by Ottawa.
Yes, certainly. A report which could have just been released, or the contents of which could have addressed the issues of Canadian politics and society, has somewhere yet again hit India on the wrong side, because the report suggests that how India after China has been a very active country. It also touches upon the issue of those 6 Indian diplomats who were expelled from Canada, or what India claimed that India has recalled them, but Canada keeps claiming that they were expelled and calls them agents. Also, it talks about that how India has been in touch with the diaspora community, threatening them, controlling them. These kind of words have been used in that Commission report, and India outrightly rejects the entire allegations or this entire baseless report which accuses India of meddling into the affairs of Canada. Rather, Indian External Affairs Ministry issued a statement saying it is rather Canada which is interfering in India's internal politics, or say the social dynamics, considering what is happening with the issue of Khalistan or those people who are getting immigration or moving to Canada. India believes that this entire atmosphere has led to illegal immigration. also how Canada has been harboring those anti-India elements despite repeated reminders. So this entire report, which could have been issued to address the issues back in Canada, the Canadian government yet again chooses to include or to allege India's involvement in their internal affairs.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali, appreciate you giving us a lowdown of all that's happened between India and Canada in the last 24 hours. All right, let's quickly now turn our attention to the big questions that we are asking on the fresh showdown that's taken place between India and Canada. All right, the first big question that we are putting, and we'll try and get those answers from our panelists, is when will Canada, let's put out those questions, when will Canada give proof when it comes to backing some of these allegations that it has made regarding India? The second key question that we are asking is that who really interfered, because there are allegations being made both by India as well as Canada, and very credible allegations have been made by India that it's in fact Canada that has interfered in its internal matters. The other key question that we are asking is, will Trudeau government face probe for failing to act? Remember, the probe very clearly says that it was Trudeau government which did not respond to Canadian security concerns. And the last key question that we are putting out is that all this means that the next Prime Minister of Canada has a lot of work to do. And will he or she help reset ties between India and Canada? Let's put that out first and foremost to Brahma Chilani, who's joining me on the broadcast. He's a strategic affairs expert. And we also have Dean Baxendale, who's a columnist, joining me from Canada on the show. Thanks much, gentlemen, for taking out the time. Mr. Chilani, let me start with you, sir. There have been allegations, fresh allegations by Canada, again without any proof, and India has responded to that, saying it is the other way around. How do you see another low that India and Canada are seeing in their relationship?
First, we should keep in mind that the issue of foreign meddling in Canada's election process is a politically explosive issue in Canada, given that the China-supported candidates were mainly or largely with Trudeau's Liberal Party. In fact, in June, a separate report, a parliamentary intelligence committee, said in its report that some members of parliament were witting or semi-witting participants in foreign meddling. In fact, the federal commissioner, inquiry commissioner, Ms. Hogue, who has submitted now the final report in May, in her interim report, she said that China stands out as the main perpetrator of such interference. So that's the background to this report. But in terms of how India has been interfering in Canada's internal affairs, the report doesn't detail evidence of how India has interfered in Canada's affairs. It seems to me that the references to India in the final report are more designed to ensure that China is not singled out as the sole perpetrator. They were trying to avoid the sole focus on China, so they brought in India, but they haven't backed up the allegations against India with any concrete evidence.
Let's put that out to Dean as well. Is that how it is? Really, that's the truth, that fact that it was China, and because Justin Trudeau shares a cozy relationship with Xi Jinping, he doesn't want to upset Xi Jinping. That's why he's also pointed out and included India falsely.
Well, of course, I thank you for having me on the program this morning, or this evening, I guess, in India. I think that, if we go back, a year and a half when the allegations were made by Justin Trudeau in Parliament regarding Indian officials or the government being involved potentially with the Niger assassination, it was clear that in part Trudeau was using the opportunity to deflect from his own inadequacies and closeness to Beijing that had been pointed out through countless articles, the book Willful Blindness, to which Optimum Publishing released in 2021, and ultimately was the reason behind the Hogue Commission. What Justice Hogue has done, and rightly, as your guest points out, is to deflect from Canada's high level of engagement with the PRC, and to deflect from, to make it appear as if India is somehow the lone and bad wolf in this process. many governments are meddling in Canada's affairs, and India certainly has interests here in Canada to pursue to meet its own national objectives, as does any nation. But this kind of deflection by Hogue in now singling out India, we've expelled 6 Indian diplomats. We've only expelled 1 Chinese diplomat in the last, for the last 20 years. And this speaks to the fact that we're not interested really, or this Liberal government is not interested in addressing a serious interference, espionage operations inside Canada.
That's a very valid point you've made, team, that when it comes to, the fact that Canada is talking about India and China, but look at the difference in how it's really treating these two when it comes to quote-unquote foreign interference and meddling. Mr. Chilani, which brings me to the point of the relationship. How do you see this relationship now from the nadir that it continues to hit under Justin Trudeau's leadership? How do you see, and what do you think would be the role of the next Prime Minister of Canada?
Canada and India are 2 leading democracies in the world. They should have very good relations. But under Trudeau, that relationship has come under increasing strain. Trudeau openly interfered in India's internal affairs during the farmers' agitation. Remember when he egged on the farmers who were blockading the highways to New Delhi? But when the truckers in Canada blockaded highways, he declared a national emergency to crush that peaceful movement. So he also exposed his double standards. But India's concern that has been expressed in the latest statement by the Foreign Ministry about how there is a nexus between illegal migration from Punjab and organized criminal activity was underlined by the way Niger, the terrorist who was killed in Canada, in British Columbia, Niger entered Canada illegally. And he's only one of many cases that India has pointed out over the years of how people from India's Punjab have been taken to Canada illegally, fostering a nexus between Canada-based Sikh separatists, the Khalistanis, and organized crime and drug syndicates operating in Canada. So this is an issue on which I think the 2 governments need to work together.
Indeed.
They need to have a working relationship on these issues, because this is also an issue that impinges on Canada's own internal security.
Indeed, indeed. Dean, come in on that, which is the fact that India has been very clear in terms of how Canada has been meddling in its affairs. The fact that several Khalistani extremists and several criminals have actually been allowed to get access into Canadian borders so easily completely undermines how India wants to deal with these criminals back home. That's the genesis of and the root cause of the problem.
It is indeed the root cause of this problem, and our intransigence towards this issue in addressing diaspora politics, where we have embraced and actually helped to further the interests of terrorist operations writ large, and those include those of Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas inside the country, are startling. What the U.S. threat of tariffs on Canada is about is exactly this nexus, where we have been the ecosystem for financing these operations in Canada. And for these terrorists around the world. So this is a deadly geopolitical issue that, that Canada needs to address, that its leadership needs to address. And if we don't, the United States is going to lay down the hammer on Canada and create a lot of problems for all of Canada.
Indeed. Thanks much, gentlemen. That's all the time I have on this discussion at India Global. As far as the issue is concerned, we're going to come back and keep addressing that in coming days. It's time for a quick break. On the other side, we come back with another terrible tragedy that occurred at Dwivedi today. We come back and talk more of that. Stay with us.
Sign up and start saving with Quidco today.
Get loose, one dose, one dose, one dose.
cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
What they don't tell best years, because your brain really matters.
Step into an unforgettable year with a VIP, a very important postcode. Because in People's Postcode Lottery's February draws, players in one winning postcode will each win £12,000 every month for 12 months. Fill your calendar with the things you've always dreamed of. Sign up before midnight on the 31st of January for you and your neighbours' chance to win £12,000 every month for 12 months. Is your door in the draw?
Reach and clean the impossible with the Starlife Crevice Brush from JML. The versatile cleaning solution for hard-to-reach areas that your standard cloths and brushes can't clean. Made with thousands of tough, durable bristles, its slim design makes it the perfect cleaning tool to tackle narrow corners, tight spaces, and hidden crevices in your kitchen, bathroom, and beyond. And with 2 in a pack, you can get the cleaning edge you need thanks to the Starlife Crevice Brush. Only $9.99 from Asda, Morrisons, Robert Dyas, Tesco, and JMLDirect.com.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global. We now turn our attention to a terrible tragedy that has occurred at the Maha Kumbh. Today at the Dwivedi Sangam, given the fact that it is Mauni Amavasya, there were, of course, a very large number of devotees which had come for that early morning dip. And what followed was a stampede where, though we don't have the official numbers, but it seems that casualties have occurred. Many have been injured and casualties have also occurred. From the Prime Minister to Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, there have been condolence messages that have come in, and also the fact that on a very auspicious day, such deep, terrible tragedy occurred. Let's get in my colleague Aishwarya Jain to really give us the details in terms of how things are unfolding right now. Aishwarya, you are there on at Prayagraj. Talk to us about the arrangements that have been made in place after that tragedy occurred.
Well, the Uttar Pradesh government and the Kumbh authorities are completely tight-lipped as far as the number of casualties and injured are concerned. So far, they have not revealed it. It is at 6:30 p.m. that we are expecting a press conference from the DIG, Mr. Vaibhav Krishna, and also from the Kumbh authorities to give some figure out, because it's evening and the stampede happened at around 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Certainly, the Uttar Pradesh government has been constantly saying that the situation is under control and the security has been deployed in large numbers at the Sangam area because it was expected at around 8 to 10 crore devotees at Mauni Amavasya, which is today one of the Shahi Snans, and therefore the reason perhaps the stampede broke out. Multiple casualties have been reported. We've been speaking to the locals over here, the devotees who have come. They are not very happy with the arrangements, but some are saying that after the stampede broke out, the arrangements was pretty good. Let me show you these quick visuals from the area where I'm standing. This is just near the Sangam Ghat, and devotees from across the country are coming in large numbers, and they've been saying that after the stampede-like situation, it was the security forces, the police officers, the senior doctors also who rushed at the spot, and all the injured ones and the dead bodies were taken to the nearest hospitals. A green corridor was established as well. Hundreds of rounds were made by the ambulances through these green corridors. The traffic was very smooth and in full attendance. The doctors worked in round the shift to treat these injured ones. Of course, one thing is seen since morning is Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in touch with the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister. He called him 4 times to take the stock of the situation over here. A coordination center has been established, a control room has been established, and from Lucknow as well, senior officials were rushed. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister is also constantly monitoring the situation from Lucknow. A control room had also been established over there. But because the numbers are not coming out, we are expecting at around 6:30 p.m. The DIG will give some figures out as to what led this stampede happen and what is the number of casualties and injured.
All right, Ishwarya, thanks much for giving that update to us from Prayagraj. Shifting focus now to the other major story that we are tracking from Bangladesh, where there's been fresh turmoil that has happened, where Sheikh Hasina's Awami League has now called for protests and strikes because it wants to now take on the Muhammad Yunus government full on. Remember, since 5th of August, Awami League has almost gone into a complete shell, with most of its leaders either being arrested, jailed, or in hiding. But now they have come out, they're taking on the Muhammad Yunus government, and there's a series of strikes and protests that are lined up. What's the reason? They feel they are being targeted, and the fact that the minorities in Bangladesh have been completely victimized under Muhammad Yunus's tenure. This comes at the first major demonstration by the Awami League and would be extremely significant how the Muhammad Yunus government responds to that. Remember, they've so far come out very strongly against Sheikh Hasina's tenure. They've come out very strongly against the Indian government, saying that they should not shelter Sheikh Hasina forward. And also they've come out with multiple extradition requests. Let's get in my colleague Saurabh Gupta to really decode this for us and what it means for Bangladesh. Saurabh, you've been working the phones, you've been getting us all details. Talk to us about what's lined up by Awami League in terms of the strikes and protests against Muhammad Yunus's government.
Well, the strikes and protests are something that are part of a larger program that the Awami League has announced. And what they want to do is really, politics in absenteeism is something that really doesn't work. And the Awami League was facing an existential crisis after the departure of Sheikh Hasina. Its party members, its supporters were all being hunted down, often also being brutally killed and having lost their lives. So in such a situation, the party to remain relevant in Bangladesh politics, because what it feels is that there is an effort to wipe out history. That, the legacy of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman is something that's being systematically wiped out. And therefore, the Awami League feels that if it doesn't put an end to it, or if it doesn't at least symbolically show it's fighting it, it might very well happen in Bangladesh, given the kind of manner in which radical elements have been functioning in that country. So obviously, this is something that the Awami League is going to do to not only maintain its political relevance in the country, but also to ensure that its supporters and its, people who are under attack also have a sense of, being part of the political process. Because remember, when elections are announced, it will be the BNP, which was the main opposition party during when the Awami League was in power, and the Awami League, which are the main parties and which have been really the main parties in Bangladesh politics, since 1971. So obviously this is going to be an interesting space to watch as far as the Awami League is concerned. It doesn't want to relegate itself to a party that is missing on the ground, given the circumstances that the party members have been facing. But it also wants to make its presence felt even in the challenging situation in Bangladesh, especially with its party members coming under attack.
All right, Saurabh Gupta, appreciate you taking out the time to decode that for us. Let's get in Muqtadir Rashid to really talk more about what this means for Bangladesh. Fresh turmoil coming in for the country, which is still recovering from the so-called student protests and what happened after that. Muqtadir, good to have you on the show. Talk to us about the impact that what Awami League is trying to do would have on the political landscape of Bangladesh. They were in hiding for about 6 months when there was a lot of attacks on them. They were being targeted, but they're now out to take on the Muhammad Yunus government.
Thank you for having me here. I don't think Awami League, the way they are doing right now, it's at all as a political party or political platform what they are doing right now. So it's very unfortunate that they're yet to say anything about the brutal killing of the students and the people during the July-August uprising. So it's very unfortunate for a political party which is now based on social media platform using the other socials. So it's now a social media platform for now. This party, which is very deeply rooted with the people in masses. But it's absolutely gone because they lost their connection with the people over the years, especially when Sheikh Hasina came to power again and again without the people's mandate. So the party, what currently they are facing right now, it's a very, very, their own kind of thing they are looking for. And on the other hand, the party, if you look at the party structure right at the moment, so few of them are now campaigning from social media, media platforms, especially from Europe or India or like USA. But many of them now are in Bangladesh. They are, they are having their time with the family. Probably they will understand the situation will improve, and maybe there will be an opportunity for them to join in next election.
All right, Muqtadir Rashid, thanks for that update. The fact of the matter is, well, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, the Awami League has been targeted, and now they're just beginning to come back into the politics of Bangladesh. On that note, we're taking a very short break. We come back on the other side with a big interview on the latest that's unfolding in Trump's immigration crackdown. Stay with us.
I like to think ahead. Make sure I've got all the right tools for the job. And now that I've turned 50, it means looking after what I've built. I'll be retiring down the line, and with the mortgage nearly done, I want to make sure that my lot will be protected if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years for full cover, with Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler and can be done in just a few minutes. Go online or talk to one of their friendly UK team who will chat you through your options in just one phone call. And their claims process is really straightforward, so your loved ones will be looked after.
Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Get covered in minutes with no annoying trips to the doctor. With fixed monthly payments, prices start at just £4.42 a month. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Cover Today has given me genuine peace of mind. And now that's done, I can get on with something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0800 470 4322 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global with me, Gaurie Dwivedi. We now turn our attention to the key story we're covering right now, which is Trump's immigration crackdown. Remember, there have been raids that have taken place across US cities. Federal agents have begun multiple immigration enforcement actions in New York City in a very visible and a very publicized show of force that included President Trump's newly installed Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem. In fact, she's put that out on her social media platforms as well. In fact, some would say he's just coming good on his election promise. The ICE reports that more than 3,500 people have actually been detained in the very first week of President Trump's presidency. 1,200 arrests were recorded on Monday alone, setting a new record. Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden, carried out an average of 311 immigration deportations daily. This is more than 3 times or 4 times of that. And Trump's operation has already struck other major cities. These are called sanctuary cities: Chicago, Miami, Atlanta, amongst others. The sources say Trump administration is planning to conduct major immigration raids in 3 U.S. cities per week. So he's going to continue this for some time. Take a look, first of all, let's take a look at this report that tells the story in greater detail, and then we come back and also talk to Doug Rand, who is an immigration expert, specialist, with whom we are going to decode what this means for India and some of the other measures, Doug, that Donald Trump has announced through his executive orders. We're going to come back and talk on that, but let's first play this report for our viewers to understand why what Donald Trump is doing is so significant and so important.
Federal officers are on the move nationwide in the United States as ICE agents make sweeping arrests in the latest immigration crackdown. The Trump administration is stepping up efforts targeting undocumented immigrants in cities across the United States, which has resulted in thousands of arrests. ICE has reported over 3,500 arrests in just the first week of Trump's presidency. 1,200 arrests were made on Monday alone, setting a new record as Trump reintroduces his zero-tolerance policy on illegal immigration. The all-hands-on-deck operation has already struck major cities like Chicago, Miami, and Atlanta, and now ICE has set its sights on New York City, launching raids in multiple locations in the Bronx. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem joined agents on the ground for what she described as criminal dirtbags that targeted quote-unquote criminal aliens with kidnapping, assault, and burglary charges.
We are here to address.
As fear spreads within immigrant communities, local leaders are holding public conferences to remind immigrants to know their rights and not give in to fear. Meanwhile, religious communities are taking a stand, with the Trump administration lifting restrictions on where arrests can occur, including sensitive areas like schools and churches. Church members have started to hold services in solidarity with those in the country without a legal status.
And so we want to send a strong message to Washington, D.C., right to the steps of the White House, saying we stand up together, we are going to support one another, and an unjust law is no law at all. And so we're willing to take on ICE enforcement. They will not come into this church. They will not be allowed to.
Since taking office, Trump has carried out a series of executive actions to overhaul the U.S. immigration system. As these efforts unfold, the debate over immigration policy grows more intense. The U.S. now stands at a crossroads with immigration policy set to shape the political and social landscape for years to come. Samia Afsar, NDTV World.
All right, let's now get in Doug Rand, who's a senior advisor of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, to talk to us about all that's unfolding in the U.S. right now. Doug, it's been a very busy week, some would say, for the immigration services. And before I come to the thorny issues that impact India, whether it's the H-1B or the birthright citizenship, I have to ask you on what's unfolding right now with those ICE arrests that are taking place. How do you see that the vigor with which all authorities seem to be now cracking down on illegal illegal immigrants in the U.S.?
Sure. Thanks so much for that question. I want to make 2 points of clarification. First, I'm a former senior advisor at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in the prior administration. And also, undocumented immigrants in America come from all countries, including India. And so I think it's important to note that these indiscriminate sweeps raise many legitimate concerns. For one, they could easily sweep up U.S. citizens, U.S. citizen children, if they're completely indiscriminate. And second, they're likely to make Americans and immigrants in America less safe because they're not properly targeting dangerous criminals and are more indiscriminately intended to just sow fear almost at random.
Okay, that's a very important point you made. Of course, when it comes to illegal immigrants, India also has a share in that. I'm not denying any of that. Now, specifically in terms of some of the key measures that Trump administration came out with and the executive orders. Firstly, do you see the policies now getting more stringent, specifically when it comes to restricting immigration across the board? Do you see that now, stricter policy framework being put in place by the Trump administration?
Unfortunately, yes. You know, it used to be that presidents of both parties here in the United States valued the contributions of immigrants in America and worked hard to strengthen our legal immigration system of green cards and work permits. In fact, it was George W. Bush, a Republican, who created the system that allows international students from India and other countries extra time after graduating from U.S. universities to get on-the-job training with U.S. employers. Under Barack Obama, a Democrat, we strengthened that program and also provided work authorization for the spouses of H-1B visa holders, mostly from India. But then with Trump's first term came this harsh rhetoric about immigrants from all national origins and all skill levels, and an attempt to harshly restrict immigration. And I'm afraid there's no reason to expect anything different in the second Trump term.
Specifically about the H-1B program, it has seen some changes that have taken place, the stricter specialty occupation requirements being one of them. How do you see these changes from an immigrant point of view? Do you see them being very stringent, and also the impact that that could have in terms of students who may want to move from F1 to the H-1B status? Talk to us about this and the impact it will have.
Sure. So that H-1B regulation was one of the final actions at the end of the Biden administration, and in my opinion takes a very balanced approach that will hopefully last. It makes the whole H-1B system more reliable. There will be no more denying H-1B extensions when nothing has changed since the initial approval 3 years earlier. That was a problem we saw in the first Trump term that we're hoping to avoid in the second Trump term. And to your question, this new regulation really helps the graduates of U.S. universities by making sure that students don't lose their immigration status just because of delays in processing by the government. At the same time, the rule does provide stronger enforcement authorities against unscrupulous employers, which I think helps the legitimate employers thrive in the United States.
Okay. Let me now come to the other matter that we are putting out on our screens as well, which is the birthright citizenship issue. The executive order that Donald Trump came out with last week, it has caused a lot of anxiety, specifically among the Indian immigrant community there. Explain to us who all are covered, and then we come to the legality of it in just a bit. But in your assessment, what do you think could be the kind of impact we are talking about this executive order?
Honestly, I think the impact is more fear than reality. This is a sweeping executive order that is unconstitutional on its face. It is attempting to roll back over a century of legal precedent in the United States and say that if somebody is born in the United States and their parents are either undocumented or on a temporary visa here legally, certainly under the jurisdiction of the United States, that all of those children would not be born U.S. citizens. It's a really symbolic gesture. I don't think that Trump's people expected it to last very long in the courts. I think they're taking a gamble and figuring, well, best case scenario, we win in the Supreme Court someday, which is very unlikely. But worst case scenario, we still scare a lot of people. And I would add, it's scaring people who are both here with and without papers.
I was going to come to the legality of it as to whether it's going to stand in a court of law. The fact that the Supreme Court is conservative leaning, in your assessment, do you think the Trump administration would be willing to probably wait it out for it to reach all the way to the Supreme Court?
I think absolutely they'll wait it out. Fortunately, as you saw last week, a federal judge, a Republican-appointed federal judge, called it blatantly unconstitutional and blocked it. So there's going to be no change Birthright citizenship is still the law of the land as it has been since the Civil War, or even earlier. And so I think there's nothing to really worry about in the very near term. Eventually this will move up at the courts and it'll probably make it all the way to the Supreme Court, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, I think that it's going to be difficult for the Trump administration to prevail even in a conservative court, because this is such a blatant departure from over a century of case law. But you never know. So I wish I could be the bearer of better news. I think there's nothing to worry about in the immediate term, but I do think this sends exactly the wrong signal to people in India and many other countries across the world who have traditionally seen America as a beacon of possibility and welcome. And I want to say to your viewers that this doesn't represent majority of Americans. I don't think it even represents most of the people who voted for Donald Trump. Most Americans recognize the massive contributions that immigrants have always made to our country, from India and elsewhere. We need more Satya Nadellas. We need more Indra Nooris. We need countless other Indian Americans who have truly made America great.
I was coming to just that, sitting here in New Delhi, the sense one gets is that the Indian legal immigrant, the one who's waiting for over 100 years to get that green card, is a highly skilled immigrant, the one who contributes to the American growth story, so to say. And 2/3 of those immigrants, 2/3 of Indian diaspora there are immigrants. They're first-generation immigrants. So that's the contribution we are talking, and also the breakup of the Indian American community there. How do you see this really unfolding in terms of the larger perception that American employers may have when it comes to getting Indian workers, taking Indian laborers?
I mean, I don't think it's an issue unique to workers from India. I think that as this administration makes the legal immigration system more difficult to navigate, more unpredictable, sending out more hostile rhetoric, it has an effect on U.S. employers, and they start looking at other countries to open up new offices. They start looking at other countries to tap talent, and it's really a self-inflicted wound that I deeply regret.
And lastly, sir, if you were to give a message to the Indian American community right now, what would that be? Because at the beginning of this conversation, you mentioned a lot of this is just driven by anxiety and fear of the unknown, so to say. But what would be your message to a large community in the US, which is highly skilled, punching above its weight in all parameters, but also at the same time feeling that it's being targeted? Because the H-1B whole story started with targeting the Indian American community.
I would say the bad news is there is a lot of ugliness in this country. I'd like to believe it's a small minority who are racist against those from India and many other countries, and who are spinning up this hateful rhetoric online and elsewhere. But the good news is that is not most Americans. And I would say to my Indian American brethren here in the United States, whether you're a naturalized citizen or whether you have a green card or whether you've been waiting a long time for a green card, please take heart. This won't last forever. Many of these actions are purely symbolic and are not going to last. They're going to get blocked by courts almost immediately. There's going to be skilled public interest lawyers and other groups who are going to make common cause to try to blunt the impact of these very detrimental orders that really are taking heart at what makes America great.
All right, Mr. Doug Rand, former senior advisor at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Thanks so much for speaking to me on India Global.
Thank you very much.
All right, on that note, we slip into a very short break. We come back with more news on the other side. Stay with us.
Our first year as a family flew by. And now, I want to make sure he'll be financially protected for all his birthdays to come. That's why I'm calling Smart Insurance.
Hi, how can I help?
Hi, I'd like a quick quote for family life insurance.
OK, you can choose a benefit amount up to £750,000 depending on your age.
That's great.
If you're a UK resident aged 18 to 64, you can apply with just a few health and lifestyle questions. For £250,000 of cover, the price starts at just £14.77 a month.
That's less than I thought. And could help my wife pay off the mortgage.
And with our Smart Family Guarantee, you'll have peace of mind.
That's good to know.
You'll also receive a 100% advance in the event of terminal illness and 10% cashback on your first year's premiums. That's the Smart Cashback. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Protect the life you've built the smart way. To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team on 0808 141 5855 or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
Quidco gives you cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco. Sign up and start saving today. Visit quidco.com.
Now I'm retired, I can spend more time with my grandson. I'm proud of him and want to help any way I can. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK.
Well, that's good to know.
UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money can help with my funeral costs or even be used as a gift. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
Thanks, Mum, for everything.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 158 552 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
In our February draws, players in one winning postcode will each win £12,000 every month for 12 months. Sign up before midnight on the 31st of January.
Protect what matters to you with Simply Safe Home Security. Get our Which Best Buy rated starter pack from under £200. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Reach and clean the impossible with the Starlife Crevice Brush from JML. The versatile cleaning solution for hard-to-reach areas that your standard cloths and brushes can't clean. Made with thousands of tough, durable bristles, its slim design makes it the perfect cleaning tool to tackle narrow corners, tight spaces, and hidden crevices in your kitchen, bathroom, and beyond. And with 2 in a pack, you can get the cleaning edge you need thanks to the Starlife Crevice Brush. Only £9.99 from Asda, Dunelm, Morrisons, Tesco, and JMLDirect.com.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global. We now turn our attention to Sunita Williams. Well, Donald Trump has tasked billionaire Elon Musk's SpaceX to bring back stranded NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore. From the International Space Station, the 2 NASA astronauts went to the space aboard the Starliner capsule last year for about 8 to 10-day mission, but they've been stuck there for over 8 months. The astronauts were left in space after an issue with their Boeing Starliner capsule delayed their return. In August, NASA decided to bring back the Starliner under remote control and left the astronauts aboard the station for an extended stay. And now President Trump has accused the previous administration of abandoning Sunita Williams and her fellow astronaut in space. Musk on social media said that SpaceX would get them home as soon as possible, calling it terrible that they were left in space so long after the Biden administration and due to the Biden administration. All right, let's get in Pallava Bagla, my colleague, to really tell us more about what the story behind the story is really here. Go ahead, sir.
Well, the story behind the story is very straightforward. It was NASA's decision not to bring back Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams on Boeing Starliner. The Boeing Starliner came back safely to Earth and they were never stranded. There was a plan A and a plan B, and the plan B was if there is a need, they could come back by another spacecraft. And the Biden administration had always said, and NASA had decided, not so much Biden administration, that SpaceX Crew Module or Crew Dragon would be used to ferry the astronauts back to Earth. Whether Sunita Williams is stranded or lost in space, I don't think those categorizations are correct. Sunita Williams danced and went into the International Space Station, and today she is now the designated commander of the International Space Station. And the plan has always been to bring them back on the Crew Dragon, which has been made by SpaceX on a Falcon 9 rocket, and they would be brought back to Earth. On a Crew Dragon, they will come back to Earth. So that is the plan. And currently the delay has been because the new Crew Dragon from SpaceX was being readied to get them back. That is why a month was pushed. They were pushed back by a month from February to March to bring them back. So very soon, Sunita Williams will definitely be back on Earth on the SpaceX Crew Dragon. But this is surely competitive politics between the Republicans and the Democrats playing out, using Sunita Williams as the Mohra or the person to be used in that politics. She is not stranded, she will definitely be back, and SpaceX Crew Dragon would be used to ferry her back to Earth.
All right. Pallava Bagla, appreciate you breaking that story down for our viewers. Shifting focus now to more news coming in from the US. A federal judge has temporarily blocked a push from Donald Trump to pause federal funding while his administration conducts an across-the-board review to approve progressive initiatives. District Judge blocked the funding freeze only minutes before it was scheduled to take effect. The ruling follows a lawsuit filed by non-profit groups that rely on federal money. The pause will remain in place until Monday afternoon, with another court hearing scheduled for that morning. The move capped a chaotic day for the US government, with uncertainty over key financial lifelines sparking panic across states, schools, organizations that depend on federal funds. Trump's team argued the freeze on loans and grants was needed to ensure spending aligns with his recent executive orders.
How long is this pause going to last? But the terms of the executive order is 90 days. But it's important to understand that it's a review process to say that there's, for discretionary spending that's not directed by Congress or required by law. So this would be, for example, something like a contract to a non-governmental organization to teach, say, critical race theory. That there has to be a politically appointed individual in the departments or agencies who simply reviews and approves the expenditure, so that we have control, democratic control over the operations of government. This doesn't affect any federal programs that Americans rely on, full stop.
All right. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to be the first foreign leader to meet Donald Trump in person at the White House since his inauguration. The Israeli government confirmed Donald Trump invited Netanyahu to Washington for a meeting on the 4th of February. This comes as a fragile 6-week ceasefire holds between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, temporarily ending 15 months of fighting. Donald Trump has taken credit for brokering the ceasefire, which began just a day before his inauguration. Dead bodies lay on the streets and explosions and gunfire echoed across the largest city in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo as fighting continues to rage between the army and the Rwanda-backed M23 rebels. Residents reported continuing gunfire and mortar fire in Goma, the capital of the North Kivu province and a regional humanitarian hub for displaced people, after M23 fighters entered the city on Sunday. 100 people have been killed, 1,000 have been wounded in just 3 days of heavy fighting, which has exacerbated the humanitarian disaster in the province. Hospitals were overwhelmed by patients with gunshot and shrapnel wounds, UN and other aid agencies said on Tuesday. Shifting focus now to Pakistan's Prime Minister's advisor on political and public affairs, Rana Sanullah, who has strongly dismissed rumours of backdoor talks between the government and Imran Khan's party, Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI). He firmly stated that no negotiations will take place through unofficial channels. Earlier, PTI chairman had revealed that PTI was not involved in talks with other entities. Sanullah went on to criticize the PTI for boycotting the 4th round of government dialogue, emphasizing that political issues can only be resolved through official discussions. He also pointed out that PTI missed a crucial opportunity to hear the government's response. He also took aim at the party's actions over the past decade, accusing them of damaging Pakistan's political landscape. Shifting focus now to Belarus, where Belarusian authorities have said that the country is prepared to quickly resume cross-border traffic with Ukraine when the situation allows. In fact, Novaya Guta, one of nearly a dozen border crossings that has been abandoned since Russia's invasion of Ukraine via Belarus, once saw up to 17,000 people pass through it daily during the summer months. Now, only a handful of soldiers remain at the site, and Belarus claims that all border checkpoints across the Ukrainian border are operational, with border guards fully prepared to resume international traffic as soon as the situation permits. Rome prosecutors have opened an investigation against Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and 2 government ministers for repatriating, a Libyan warlord wanted by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. In a social media video, Meloni disclosed the investigation concerning alleged assistance to Osama Anijim, also referred to as Osama al-Masri. He said her Justice and Interior Ministers and an Undersecretary are also targeted in the investigation. The Prime Minister's government has faced criticism from opposition parties, human rights organizations, and even the ICC following al-Masri's release on a technicality after his arrest in Turin, where he was detained under an international warrant. Responding to the investigation, Meloni suggested political motives were behind the move, insisting she was not and she will not be blackmailed or intimidated. And finally, hundreds of millions across Asia are gearing up to celebrate the Lunar New Year, saying goodbye to the Year of the Dragon and welcoming the Year of the Snake. In China, the Spring Festival kicks off with 8 days of public holidays, giving families time to feast, enjoy traditional performances and light up the skies with fireworks. During the traditional 40-day period that runs before, during and after the Lunar New Year holidays, a massive 9 billion trips are expected to be made across the country, with people crisscrossing through the country to meet their near and dear ones. Travel, whether by air or by train, is expected to be at its peak during this period, when millions of train and 90 million air trips are scheduled to be made. All right, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.
When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora.
At Tesco Mobile, unlock even better phone deals with your Club Card. Get our 30 gig SIM for just £12.50 a month with Club Card prices, saving you £30. Better yet, your Club Card lets you unlock more than just great deals, like frozen prices and no EU roaming fees until the end of your contract. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
I'm a simple man. Family, friends and a bit of footy.
The usual, Jules, thanks. Now I'm in my 50s, things are getting a little more complicated. Look, no one's getting any younger. Retirement's peeking around the corner, and with the mortgage nearly done, I wanted to make sure my family was really looked after, if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years, with Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler. Go online or talk to their friendly UK team and they'll chat you through your options in just one phone call. And their claims process is really straightforward, so your loved ones will be looked after.
Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period. Everyone else makes you wait up to 2 years. Get covered in minutes with no annoying trips to the doctor, with fixed monthly payments. Prices start at just £4.42 a month. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Cover Today has given me genuine peace of mind. And now I can get on with something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0800 470 4493 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
Time's up, fad diets. Life's too short to only eat grapefruit, hard-boiled eggs, cabbage soup. Ugh. Ditch the diet shakes, measuring tapes, and vibrating plates. And break free from fad diets with Voi. With its combination of clinically proven medication, personalised health app, and one-to-one coaching, join the weight loss revolution today at joinvoi.com.
Reach and clean the impossible with the Starlife Crevice Brush from JML. The versatile cleaning solution for hard-to-reach areas that your standard cloths and brushes can't clean. Made with thousands of tough, durable bristles, its slim design makes it the perfect cleaning tool to tackle narrow corners, tight spaces, and hidden crevices in your kitchen, bathroom, and beyond. And with 2 in a pack, you can get the cleaning edge you need thanks to the Starlife Crevice Brush. Only $9.99 from Asda, Dunelm, Morrison's, Tesco, and JMLdirect.com.
Sign up and start saving with Quidco today. Get cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
Adityanath has now advised people, remember there are lakhs still there, to take their holy dip at the ghats closest to them and not troop to that most holy spot. Several ghats have been prepared for such dips. The famous akharas also resumed the Shahi Snan at the Triveni Sangam after it was briefly suspended during the day following that stampede. Remember, as I mentioned, lakhs of devotees continue to be there for the Kumbh Mela. The UP government expected overall 10 crore devotees to come.
आज की चुनाव सभा को संबोधन करने से पहले मैं महाकुंभ में जो दुखद हादसा हुआ है उस हादसे में हमें कुछ पुण्यात्माओं को खोना पड़ा है, कई लोगों को चोटें भी आई हैं। मैं प्रभावित परिवारों के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं और घायलों के जल्द स्वस्थ होने की कामना करता हूं। मैं यूपी सरकार के साथ निरंतर संपर्क में हूं।
क्षेत्र में अखाड़ा मार्ग पर भारी भीड़ का दबाव बना और इस भीड़ के दबाव के कारण दूसरी ओर के बैरिकेड्स टूट गए और भीड़ के लोग बैरिकेड्स बांधकर दूसरी तरफ ब्रह्म मुहूर्त के स्नान का इंतजार कर रहे श्रद्धालुओं को कुचलना शुरू कर दिया। यद्यपि प्रशासन ने तत्काल राहत और बचाव कार्य करते हुए ग्रीन कॉरिडोर बनाया और एम्बुलेंस के माध्यम से लगभग 90 घायलों को अस्पताल तक पहुंचाया, परंतु इसमें से दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण तरीके से 30 श्रद्धालुओं की दुखद मृत्यु हो गई है।
मेरी अपील है पूरे प्रदेशवासियों से, पूरे देशवासियों से और सभी श्रद्धालुओं से भी, सभी पूज्य संतों से भी कि अफवाह पर कोई ध्यान न दें, संयम से काम लें। ये सब आयोजन सभी लोगों का है। प्रशासन उनकी सेवा के लिए पूरी तत्परता के साथ लगा हुआ है, लेकिन मेरी अपील होगी कि कोई भी नकारात्मकता न फैलाने दें और न किसी अफवाह पर विश्वास करें। स्थिति नियंत्रण में है। हाँ, दबाव जरूर है, क्योंकि मैंने आपको बताया कि प्रातःकाल से सुबह 8:30 बजे तक 3 करोड़ से अधिक श्रद्धालु स्नान कर चुके हैं। मौनी अमावस्या का जो मुहूर्त है पूरे रात्रि भर है, इसलिए ये नहीं हो केवल इस पे कि हम अभी स्नान करेंगे, आवश्यक नहीं, कभी भी आप स्नान कर सकते हैं। तो उस पर जरूर सभी से मेरी विनम्र अपील होगी कि वे लोग उस पर सहयोग करेंगे तो सकुशल सभी को स्नान कराने में और सकुशल इस महापर्व को आयोजित करने में प्रशासन को और शासन को मदद मिलेगी।
Well, my colleague Aishwarya Jain, who's been tracking this very closely, joins me live right now. Aishwarya, take us through what you're hearing from the authorities. Obviously, the Kumbh continues. There are going to be more auspicious days. There are going to be several lakhs of people still there at Prayagraj.
Well, it was at around 2:30 a.m. in the morning when the stampede broke out, and now the official figures have come out. 30 people had been dead, and more than 90 had been injured. 25 had been identified so far as casualties are concerned. 5 are still unidentified. And the place where I'm standing is Motilal Nehru Medical College, where all the bodies and injured ones were first taken. The Uttar Pradesh government had been stating that there was a green corridor that was established, and it was through those corridors the ambulances came in. Let me show you these visuals, horrifying visuals from the Motilal Nehru Medical College. These are the people who had lost their loved ones, and they had been called in over here to identify their loved ones. People are not able to find out where their loved ones are, and from Prime Minister to Home Minister of the country had expressed condolences to the family members who have lost their loved ones. Let me also try to speak to some of the people, the devotees who came over here. आप यहाँ पर कब आए थे?
कहाँ यहाँ
पर नहीं, प्रयागराज में आपका?
प्रयागराज में कल मैं आया हूँ रात को